Hello, everybody. Buenas noches. Great evening. Okay. It is the Sabbath. We are on the Sabbath time, per se. It is after sunset, right? That is when the Sabbath starts for you newcomers who may not know that Friday at sunset is when the Sabbath starts, okay? So I was thinking about this and I found in Ezekiel what I was trying to look for earlier. And so this is just in continuance as far as Yahweh giving his words to his prophets and the Messiah, of course, like we covered in the last video. Okay. I guess so what I'm doing is trying to give you newcomers an idea as to how I do things, as to how the Holy Spirit might guide me through the Holy Scriptures. Okay. These are things that some of y'all might have missed as to how the Messiah came teaching, what he came teaching, why he came teaching what he did, and so on and so on and so on. Okay. I'm going to start from Deuteronomy. Like I said, this is just like a continuance of probably the last two videos, the one we saw this morning and the one from yesterday, per se. Okay. So we don't get lost. We can start off in Deuteronomy 18 all over again, okay? And I have my King James here just in case, okay? So we'll start here with Deuteronomy 18. And the prophecy of Yahshua is in Deuteronomy 18:18. I will raise up for them a prophet like you from among their brothers, and I will put my words in his mouth, and he will tell them everything I command him. Okay. 19, whoever will not listen to my words which he speaks in my name, I will judge him for it. Okay. So, and then it says in verse 21, if y'all don't mind me jumping, it says, and you may say to yourself, how can we know when a message has not been spoken by Yahweh? Well, like I said, I think in the last video, I said earlier today, if it's not in this book, then that is a false prophet or a false prophecy given by a false prophet. Okay. So, again, going to the prophetical events, the prophecies we see these so-called prophets are putting out today. When these things do come to pass, then you will know that there was a prophet among us or among you. Like I'm going to read here in Ezekiel in a little bit. Okay. Again, for you newcomers, if you do not understand how prophecy works, the language, the context, then there's no reason for you to ever agree to disagree with somebody. I know a lot of Christians use that phrase. I was just talking to a girl about it about a month ago. She was telling me all these things, just because her dad was a preacher. I said, that doesn't mean anything. I said, but if I were to talk to your dad, I said, I'm sure your dad will probably kick me out of the house because he's going to see that how Yahweh teaches us, so. But she just kept ranting on that everybody goes to heaven when they die. And I'm like, wow, okay. But so she agreed to disagree. And that was the end of our relationship, per se, on social platforms. No big loss for me, if you ask me, okay. I try to help her out. I try telling her these things, but you can't teach those who don't want to learn, right? You can't teach those whose heart has been hardened by Yahweh, like Yahweh hardened the Pharaoh's heart and so on, okay? And like here in Ezekiel, how a rebellious people just have their hearts just like stone, so. But anyways, okay, so Ezekiel or Yeketskia or Ezekiel was another prophet chosen by Yahweh. And I found what I wanted to read to y'all earlier, and it's here in Ezekiel chapter 3, okay? Notice what it says here, and starting from verse 18, Ezekiel 3:18. And I already cleansed my phone with all those videos. When I say to the wicked, you will surely die, and you give him no warning, nor speak to warn the wicked from his wicked way, to save his life. That same wicked man will die in his iniquity, but his blood will I require at your hand. So, when Yahweh gave his words to his prophets, but they didn't give it to the people to warn them of their lives, then that man, per se, or woman, was going to die in his or her iniquity. That blood was going to be on the hands of the prophet, because he did not go out there and speak in Yahweh's name, his authority, nor give the warnings to the people saying, this is what's coming to y'all if y'all don't repent right now. Okay. 19. Yet, if you warn the wicked, and he does not turn from his wickedness, nor from his wicked way, he will die in his iniquity, but you will have delivered your own life. So now, when Yahweh gave his prophet his words to tell the people about the warning, what of our evil ways come, and he does not change, then that prophet has saved his life, and this guy will still die in his iniquity, but he will not be the prophet's responsibility. The blood won't be on his hand, so to speak. Okay. Notice in 20, again, when a righteous man turns from his righteousness is Deuteronomy 6:25, if we keep Yahweh's laws. Again, when a righteous man turns from his righteousness and commits iniquity, then I will lay a stumbling block before him, and he will die. Because you did not give him the warning, he will die in his sin, and his righteousness which he has done will not be remembered, but his blood will I require at your hand. Okay, all this should be making sense by now. Okay. Nevertheless, if you warn the righteous man that the righteous should not sin, and he does not sin, he will surely live, because he took heed, he took the warning, and you will have delivered your own life. Okay, I like that. I was just a little bit upset that I couldn't find it earlier, but if we seek, we will find, right? And like I've told y'all, you newcomers, I look up a lot of stuff on my phone because I can't find it a lot of the times. What I'm going to do here is highlight, even though I don't have, well, I got some map colors here out of my coloring box that I use for my portraits and my drawings. So I'm going to just highlight these, mark it here with the green. Green is my favorite color. Okay. All right. So now we understand, we're starting to understand how a prophet works. If your pastor proclaims to be a prophet, or if you who are watching this proclaim to be a prophet, this is what you should be doing. Okay. But if you're going to keep telling people that Yahweh's laws were done away with, then how are you going to warn people about what their sinful life brings? Okay, doesn't work, right? It's not going to work. Nothing has changed, people. Nothing changes. I think that's green enough, so I may be able to find it next time. I really like these scriptures here. Ezekiel's loaded with stuff like this. Okay, so again, the Messiah played the role of a prophet. This is as well as what he has done. Let's go back over to, let me write these down so I know where they're at next time. Ezekiel 3:18 through 21. If you go over to the book of John, let's see. I think we're going to be able to use these. John 17:6 through 9. And then we also have John 15:1 through 8. And then there's also here in John 12. (47 through 50). John 12:47 through 50. I'll read this one here. So if any man hears my words, my teachings pertaining to the law and the prophets, and does not believe I do not judge him, for I did not come to judge the world, but to save the world. He who rejects me and does not follow my words, my teachings pertaining to the law and the prophets, has one who judges him. The word that I have spoken, my teachings pertaining to the law and the prophets, the same will be used to judge him in the last day. For I have not spoken on my own, but the Father who has sent me gave me the laws, what I should say and what I should speak. And I know that his laws are life everlasting, so whatever I speak, I am saying exactly what my Father has told me to say. Plain and simple. No need to say, wait. Let's read it again and let's, No, it's in plain black and white. Okay. So we're getting the idea now that Yahshua, as a prophet, was telling us almost the same thing Ezekiel was. Okay. He did his job, and he gave us Yahweh's words, and those who did not listen to him were not going to get judged. Okay, let me mark this here for me. You can cross-reference John 12, 47 through 50 with Ezekiel 3, 18 through 21. Pretty much speaking about the same thing. Okay. Now, I think that pretty much covers that. And if y'all want to read John 17, 6 through 9, John 15, 1 through 8, and of course John 12, 47 through 50. Okay. I made a comment in this video before this one in saying how today's preachers need to put distinction, put differences, draw the lines between the holy and the profane, the righteous and the wicked, and everything else, because that is clearly written for our understanding in the book of Leviticus. Here we are. Leviticus 10:10 says, "You must distinguish between the holy and unholy, and between the unclean and the clean." Are you preachers doing that? Or are your preachers doing that? No, they told us we could eat anything we wanted to. Then he's not teaching you the light. There is no light in that person. Okay. Notice Ezekiel also speaks of these kind of preachers. Okay. I got footnotes written all over my Bible. It's all written, highlighted, footnotes, everything, proper cross-references. It's just crazy. Okay, let's see. If you read, let me see the first one. If you read in Ezekiel, well, if I can find it. Ezekiel. Wow, I can't find it. Okay, here it is. If you go over to Ezekiel 22, verse 26, notice here, "Her priests have violated my law and have profaned my holy things. They have put no difference between the holy and the profane. They have not taught the difference between the unclean and the clean. They have shut their eyes to the keeping of my Sabbaths, and I am profaned among them." Okay, this is speaking of those prophets, preachers, teachers that are not putting distinction if and when they are supposed to be teaching the laws of our Father. Okay, but here and in this one, Ezekiel 44, are Yahweh's ministers. Okay, notice here Yahweh's ministers in Ezekiel 44, verse 23 and 24. "And they will teach my people the difference between the holy and profane, and show them how to distinguish between the unclean and the clean." What did we cover in the past two videos? about being able to declare what has been made righteous in heaven, we will be able to say this is righteous on earth. Whatever has been declared to be sinful, we will say this is sinful here on earth. This is us, or this is Yahweh's people. Christianity just says, no, eat whatever you want, and you're not gonna die. And even then, everything is defiled by flies and worms anyways. They try to justify and cover that clean meats are defiled anyways. But don't get me wrong, because if you were to ever to get on the official House of Yahweh page on Facebook, nobody teaches the way they do, because they bring out these articles of nuclear war and famines and diseases and epidemics, and they even show you articles to where just because the meat has a stamp of the USDA, whatever organization it is, does not mean it's clean. I was reading an article in the feds where they were throwing whatever leftovers of pork and dogs and cats, even if a mouse fell in the grinder. What did I tell you in the last video? Nobody says nothing. Isn't that crazy? And they were talking, I saw the sermon earlier, I was able to catch a glimpse of how they were talking about they're coming up with this new kind of synthetic meat or something. I was like, that's crazy. But it's real, people. These things are real. So again, we are being taught to put the distinction between all these things. About what has been declared righteous in heaven, we say this is righteous on earth. What has been declared as sinful in heaven is what is sinful on earth. Okay, you can't do those things if you're doing away with those laws. Okay, yeah, our Father knows, people, what's better, what's more better, what's better, and what is righteous for us as far as health goes. You can't sit there and tell me, well, my doctor, your doctor is not my savior. Okay, all y'all should know that all of today's and yesterday's per se medications, they all have side effects. It can never cure you with those things. But like our pastor says, Mr. Hawkins, he says, we create our own sicknesses, we create our own diseases, but we want somebody else to cure us from it. But like it says in the book of Jeremiah, there will be no cure for your illnesses. Okay, that's why I was saying in the last video before this last one, saying if you get sick from eating pork, you're not going to blame our Father for it, are you? Just like when I told you about me, when I got locked up in the feds for drugs, if you weren't getting it from me, which I know you weren't, you were getting it from somebody down the street from your house. Okay, you can't blame me for putting drugs within your kid's reach. I'm not responsible for y'all's addictions. Okay, don't blame me for it. Blame your government. Okay, all right. So anyways, notice here, I'll just read a little bit here from Ezekiel 44:25. They will not go near any dead person to defile themselves. However, for their father, mother, son, daughter, brother, or their sister who has no husband, they may defile themselves. In other words, like we just went 2 days ago into a house of mourning, a funeral home. One of my cousins, she was 54, passed away. I mean, I could have just, I could have just knelt there and just prayed for her, that her father, all these things, but I didn't get near the dead body. And so I said hi to her mom, which is my tia, or my aunt or cousin, and the grandkids and my other female primas, my cousins that were there, and I walked out. Okay, not supposed to be going to those kind of places. We're supposed to bury our family right then and there. Okay, that's how we're supposed to do it. Okay, so if y'all want to cross-reference Ezekiel 44:23 and 24 with Ezekiel 23 or Ezekiel 23:26 with Matthew. This is what I do. I like giving you guys, the viewers, proper cross-referencing. And read them very carefully. Read them very, very carefully. Again, like I said, just talking about in my last video, do not let anybody deceive you. Okay? I'll read this one here in Matthew for you guys. Matthew 18 verse 19 says, "And I will give the knowledge, the teachings of the law and the prophets of the kingdom of Yahweh to you, and whatever you will declare to be unlawful on earth will be that which has been declared unlawful in heaven. And whatever you declare to be lawful on earth will be that which has been declared to be lawful in heaven." See? Plain and simple. You can't do this if you're part of a religious organization that teaches you that those laws are done away with. You're not telling me, if you tell me as a Christian or a Catholic, because there are very few Christians out there that don't eat pork, but if you're one of those that tells me that I can eat pork, then you're not falling under these scriptures. You are not a disciple, an apostle of the true Messiah, because an apostle or disciple teaches exactly as the Messiah did. Exactly. Do not take away from it and do not add to it. Okay? Yeah, unless I say okay a lot. Okay? Okay. All right. So, with this, let's go over to Matthew 5 again. Like I said, I'm trying to help you newcomers giving you guys an outline of how the teachings come out of the house of Yahweh through the scriptures. Okay. If we read in Matthew 5, I'll explain this one down to you a little bit more as well, so y'all might understand it more better. Yeah, I know I say it on purpose. Okay. I was a I'm not saying it because I was a C&D student. I just say it because I just like to make people laugh sometimes. Okay. Anyways. All right. Notice now in Matthew 5 verse 17. We read this plenty of videos if you go back. "Do not even think that I have come to destroy the law or the prophets. I have not come to destroy them, but to establish." Again, yes, he fulfilled the law, but he did not keep the law for us. Nobody can keep the law for you and you get the credit. If you go back a few videos when I talk about the seed of Abraham, I make mention that people back then, in the times of the Messiah, were saying the same things a lot of Christians say today. Well, Jesus did it all for me. And it's like they were saying, well, Abraham kept the laws for us. And he said, if Abraham was your father, you'd be doing the same works he did. Okay. And of course, today we have the Messiah. And as a second witness, we have Abraham, who kept the laws of our father. Genesis 26:5 says that Abraham kept my charge, kept my laws, my commandments, my statutes, and my ordinances. So the law was given in the book of Genesis for you newcomers who might have missed that. Actually given in the shape of a tree, the tree called the tree of righteousness. The other one was a mixture of righteousness with a bunch of lies. Okay, verse 18. "For truly I say to you, unless heaven and earth passes away, one yod, the smallest of the letters, will in no way pass from the law until all things are perfected." Now, well, I already know these. Matthew 5:18, you can cross-reference to Deuteronomy 19:15. Says, "One witness is not enough to convict a man accused of any crime or offense he may have committed. Only by the mouth of 2 or 3 witnesses may the matter be established." Okay. So now we go over to Deuteronomy 30:19. I think. Yes. Deuteronomy 30, starting from verse 15. Yahweh said to Moshe, and Moshe says, "See, I have set before you this day life by righteousness," the keeping of Yahweh's laws, "and death and destruction." Romans 6:16, you belong to whom you obey, right? That's what the Apostle Shaul said. Whether of death, whether of sin, which leads to death, or of righteousness, which leads to obedience. "And that I command you this day to love Yahweh your Father by walking in all his ways, by keeping his laws, his statutes, his judgments, so that you may live and multiply, and so Yahweh your Father may bless you in the land which you go in to possess. But if your heart turns away and you are not obedient and you are drawn away to submit to God's Elohim, to worship them by serving them, notice verse 17 very carefully. If your heart turns away, what did we just finish reading in Ezekiel? Same thing, more or less. I declare to you this day that you will surely perish. You will not prolong your days in the land which you cross over the Jordan to possess, or Yardan, Y-A-R-D-A-N in Hebrew pronunciation. Notice here now in Deuteronomy 30:19, I call heaven and earth as witnesses against you this day that I have set before you life and death, blessings and curses. And here in the italics means that it was added. Okay, take note of that. Words that are in italics, or to you guys like this, right? In italics means they've been added. But notice what it says. Because you are free agents to make your own choice between righteousness and evil, therefore choose life, so both you and your children may live. So if you ever come to all these churches and you still can't figure out what the true message is, our Yahweh does not leave us guessing. I know a lot of Catholics, mostly Catholics, say, well, nobody understands the Bible. But he's telling us in plain black and white, choose life. Choose life so that both you and your children may live. He doesn't leave us guessing. We don't have to speculate, oh, but what do I got to do? If the book of Ecclesiastes even says that the whole duty of man is to keep the commandments. Okay. So notice again, I covered in the last video and giving you all 1 John 5:3 as to what the love of Yahweh is. Notice 30:20. Deuteronomy 30 verse 20. So you may love Yahweh your Father by listening to him and then obeying him. Hold fast to him, for he is your life. He will also give you many years in the land he vowed to give to your fathers, to Abraham, to Isaac, and Jacob. See, this is why Yahshua is saying, unless heaven and earth pass away. Because Yahweh used those two witnesses against us that he has given us life by obedience and death by disobedience. Blessings and curses. There is no gray area nor in between. Either we obey or we sin. That's it. Okay. Now next verse here in verse 19. Whosoever therefore will break one of the least of these laws and will teach men so, he will be called the least in the kingdom of Yahweh, but whoever will do and teach them, the same will be called great in the kingdom of Yahweh. Again, we go back to Ezekiel and teaching the people Yahweh's ways, Yahweh's laws, judgments, statutes, ordinances. Okay, so if the people took heed, what do we read? That if they took heed, then the prophet did his job, and that man, the listener, if he turned from his evil ways, he would live. Okay, but if the prophet didn't do his job in giving him the words, then how can that guy take heed? He's gonna die, and that prophet is responsible. That makes sense? Okay. Verse 20, for I say to you, unless your righteousness exceeds the righteousness of the scribes and the Pharisees, you will certainly not enter in the kingdom of Yahweh. Which means, there's another verse that says about the leavening of the Pharisees. A little leavening can go. Okay. So it's talking about is these false teachings that can grow up to be, big per se. But the righteousness of Yahshua is the righteousness of Yahweh, which is the keeping of Yahweh's laws. Okay, got to put a distinction in these things. Okay, so let's see. I guess here's another one. Kind of has to do with what we're talking about here. In the same book of Matthew, chapter 10, verse 40. Matthew 10:40. He who receives you receives me, and in receiving me receives him who sent me. Who sent Yahshua? Yahweh did. So if Yahweh calls us out to Yahshua, then we have a choice, like we just read, to choose, like we also read in John, that if we hear his words, and then we do them, then we belong to him. We are his sheep because we hear his voice. We heed the call. We heed the warnings that were brought to us by the prophets and by the Messiah. Okay. He who receives a prophet because of the authority of a prophet will receive a prophet's reward. And he who receives a righteous man because of the character of the righteous man will receive a righteous man's reward. Okay. So, again, like we read and I mentioned to you on the last video in Revelation 1:1, these are the inspired words that come from Yahweh, given to Yahshua, given to the Malak or the angel, and then given to John, or like it says, to his servants. It doesn't say to everybody. Okay. Again, as to why the Messiah spoke to certain people in parables. Okay. It is in Matthew 13. I'll read it again from here. Let me see what I can break down for you guys. Matthew 13, starting from verse 10. Then the disciples came to him and asked, "Why do you speak to them in parables?" He answered and said to them, "Because it has been given to you to know the great secrets of the kingdom of Yahweh, but to them it has not been given. Many are called, few are chosen." Not everybody is called and many are chosen. Many are called and only a few are chosen. For whoever has, more will be given to him, and he will have abundantly. And we read the story of the story of the son, the prodigal son. I think it's got something to do with it. I can't remember, so won't quote me on it just yet. But whoever has not, even what he has will be taken away. These you can compare to the parables of the hidden treasure, and well, it's actually over here about the parable of the wheat and the tares. Okay, that is why I speak to them in parables, because seeing they do not see, and hearing they do not hear, nor do they understand. And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, and there's actually more than a few than just this one. And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah, which says, "You will hear without ceasing, but you will not understand. You will see without ceasing, but you will not perceive. Make the heart of this people fat, and make their ears heavy, and shut their eyes, or they will see with their eyes, and hear with their ears, and understand with their heart, and be converted, and be healed. But blessed are your eyes, for they see, and your ears, for they hear." So I said, I think in the last couple of videos, if you're beginning to understand the teachings of the Messiah, then you're catching on to the writings of the prophets, because like he said in John chapter 5, had you believed Moses, you would believe me. But if you do not believe in Moses' writings, how are you going to believe what I'm telling you? Okay. Yahshua had a source. Yahweh's words were his source. The law, or Moses, was his source, and the writings of the prophets, like we just quoted, like he just quoted, was his source. Okay, he's got Yahweh as witness is sufficient for Yahshua, but he's got the writings of the prophets, Moses, and the Father. So now he's got three witnesses. Okay, so everything he says is true. So don't let no man deceive you, and let your preachers twist the well, he didn't really mean that, because if you look over here, again, these doctrines have to lead to righteousness, like we read in Timothy, for instruction in righteousness. And righteousness is, again, in Deuteronomy 6:25, the keeping of Yahweh's laws. Distractions. Okay, all right. So, again, people, let this sink in a little bit. Remember when he says, "He who has ears, let him hear." Well, we all have ears, right? We all have ears, but we do not all understand. Okay. In the spiritual sense, let me now just change a little bit, give you guys a heads up, maybe, for you newcomers. He says in Matthew 11, I like this one. This is one of my favorite ones. Matthew 11, I'll start from verse 2. Now when John the Baptist had heard in prison about the works of the Messiah, he sent two of his disciples. Why two? Because we need 2 or 3 witnesses to establish a matter. who said to him, "Are you the one who was to come, or do we look for another?" Yahshua answered and said to them, "Go back and tell John these things which you see and hear. The blind receive their sight, the lame walk, the lepers are cleansed, and the deaf hear. The dead are raised up, and the poor have the message preached to them." There's a lot of poor people today, not poor of riches, but the poor who are destitute of the daily food. They're not receiving it. But then again, sometimes when they do hear the truth, they'll be like, no, that's not what I was looking for. Okay, then it says, "Blessed is the man who will not be offended by me." Okay, so we look at it in this way. Sure, there might have been people who couldn't walk, probably had polio or whatever back in the day. I think it was already known back in the day. It was probably called something else though. And he helped them walk. Just like we read about how he brought Lazarus back from the dead and that little girl. He told the people they're not dead, they're just sleeping. Okay. All right. So now those who do not walk in Yahweh's ways, like we just read in Deuteronomy, can walk and have the light in front of them guiding their feet, guiding their path. Notice what it said in Psalm 119. I read that to you a couple of times. Psalm 119, verse 105, "Your law is a lamp to our feet and a light to our path." Verse 130, "The unfolding of your law gives light. They give understanding to the simple." See? So now we can walk in Yahweh's ways because we have the light. Again, if you're being taught that these laws, the light of the world was done away with, what are you going to be walking in? You're going to be stumbling over your own ignorance, per se. Okay? Also, it says, the lepers are cleansed and the deaf hear. Sure, there might have been actual deaf people who couldn't hear any noise, but there's a lot of people today that have never heard the word because they're being taught that the laws were done away with, right? How on earth are you going to be able to preach the true message to everyone else? You can't. We go back to earlier in Matthew. You can't declare what has been made righteous in heaven here on earth. You can't declare what has been made sinful in heaven here on earth. You can't do it. You can't do it. You're not teaching the deaf to hear, the lame to walk, and the blind to see. Now we see, for there were blind people that couldn't see anything, but there's people who now understand, because to have eyes is to have understanding. To understand means to have eyes. Okay, what do we say when we catch on? Oh yeah, now I see. There you go, people. There you go. I guess that's what we also get. There's another phrase, like even a blind man can see that. Okay, so these are the teachings of the prophet, or a prophet, Yahshua. We read how through Ezekiel, and how he even said that if we do not take heed, if we listen but we don't follow, oh, that's Mark, my bad. So again, like it says here in John 3:3, "I say to you, unless a man is reborn from above, he cannot see the kingdom of Yahweh." Okay, we got to relearn everything, people. I, as a personal testimony, I didn't know anything before the house of Yahweh, before I started reading the Bible through the house of Yahweh. Now, like I told you in my last couple of videos, it brings me joy again to get back into doing these videos for you newcomers. Okay. I'll read again here. We're about 40 minutes. I'll read again here more or less what Yahshua says, what the prophet Ezekiel was saying almost verbatim. He says in John 8:51, "Truly I say to you, if a man keeps my word, my teachings pertaining to the law and the prophets, he will by no means see eternal death. He will not be dead forever." Then the Jews, or the Yadim, said to him, now we know that you are a demon. Abraham is dead. Okay, all right. And then we go, as you can see, I'm doing as Yahweh's Holy Spirit guides me here a little and there a little, like we read in Isaiah 28. Okay. I know somebody might be thinking, well, yeah, he's just jumping around. Yeah, I'm jumping around and giving you guys proper referencing. Okay. Notice again in John 12, I know I read this earlier, it's 47 through 50 about hearing and take heed. And hearing and not doing, then we won't be judged. Okay. So I wanted to give you guys, the newcomers, maybe even you guys and gals that have been with me since the beginning, as to how the Messiah taught. And these revelations per se came to me recently when I seen the number. Like I said, I think it's 5, if not 6 new subscribers since I've been back from Mexico from seeing my grandmother. And I said, I can honestly say these are revelations. All revelations come, or our interpretations come from Yahweh. Okay, so I hope this helps clarify what the Messiah came teaching. How did he teach? Why was he teaching these things? Because he was prophesied of by the prophet Moses what he would come teaching. All these words that are written per se from Genesis to Malachi are the words, or is the testimony of Yahweh, the law and the prophets. That's all. That's pretty much most of what he came teaching, apart from the parables, right? Because they're not necessary laws. A parable is like a poem or a dark saying, something that not everybody understands. Okay, but through proper cross-referencing of the scriptures, through proper guidance of Yahweh's Holy Spirit, like we read in 1 Corinthians chapter 2, the man who is under Yahweh's Holy Spirit's influence will find these truths, as we also read in the footnote of Isaiah 28 something. Okay, if you're an unbeliever and you don't believe in these truths, like the Messiah said, if he told us an apple was red, that's not true. It's black. It's a black color, because the government says. You're gonna believe the government over the Messiah. Yeah, it sounds stupid, but that's exactly how those kind of comments and commentaries that I've read sound. Okay, no need to overanalyze anything. Okay, I mean, that's why it says, Yahweh gives wisdom to the simple people. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Keep it simple. Okay, so always refer back to the prophets, people. There's a lot in there. Ezekiel, and so far Isaiah and Jeremiah. I'm going to read the story of Jonah tonight, if not tomorrow, and comment maybe on that one as well, because he was one that didn't want to go and teach, so Yahweh made the whale swallow him. A great story. I remember reading that one as a kid, I think, when I used to go to the Catholic church here in my hometown. I was like, you got swallowed by a whale? Wow, crazy. But anyways, so yeah, people, comment section is open, and I'm on my my coffee here. Finally got some liquid creamer, but the comment section is open, people. Leave your thoughts, questions, ideas, whatever, something you want me to cover, something you need me to help find you. I mean, you have a phone, like what I did to find that verse in Ezekiel. I looked it up. I typed in, "I will hold you responsible," King James Version, and in here it gave me Ezekiel 3:18. So I started reading. I was like, that's where it's at. Okay. So again, I hope you guys now understand how the Messiah came teaching, what he came teaching, and why he came teaching this. Because Yahweh put his words in his mouth, as he did Moses and Jeremiah and Isaiah and all the other ones. Okay. So if y'all have something for me, y'all might, if y'all think I know about it, a certain subject, let me know in the comment section below, and I will cover it for you guys. I was gonna leave this weekend back to Mexico. Oh, and I did upload a video of my grandma's ranch from the house to the Rio Grande and back. And like I said, there's not a whole lot of signal, but it did upload, but it took a couple of hours. So, but anyways, I'm not going after all, because I have pending another date per se I'm supposed to go talk to a specialist and cry to him or her, whoever it might be, how this accident has affected my life. If you guys and gals have been through something like that, and I never hope you guys do, if y'all been through it, y'all know what it feels like to have lower lumbar spine surgery. Not too bad, but not good either, you know. So anyways, people, I hope you guys enjoyed this video as much as I enjoy putting them out to you guys and girls. Again, comment section is open. Thoughts, prayers, opinions, comments, questions, whatever you want to put under. Keep them clean, keep them respectful, because I will put you on blast on my video. Not cuss you out. I will never do that, but if I feel you're being sarcastic, I might just go along with it. You know, I'm like, I'll maybe like, you can come up with something better than that. Where are you from? You know, just fool around with you like that. But anyways, okay. So Yahweh bless, and Yahshua and Yahweh's true love, peace, and joy. Y'all have a great Sabbath or a great night. And I will probably see you. I might just put up another one tomorrow and probably Sunday. Okay. See what I can find. Until then, y'all have a great one.